Lawmakers have tentatively agreed on a new plan to keep the government open, but it falls far short of what President Trump wants. It would keep the government running until September and includes $1.37 billion to build a barrier at the southern U.S. border, less than a quarter of the $5.7 billion President Trump is demanding. Yahoo Finance's Rick Newman is here with more. Rick, depending on who you talk to, a lot of the conservative media is saying this is actually an insulting amount. So does Trump say yes to it?
We're going to find out. He has not indicated yet whether he will sign the deal. I think his options are very limited at this point. If he doesn't sign it, he has taken responsibility for yet another government shutdown. The last one was a loser for him. His approval ratings went down during the shutdown, came up a little bit after the shutdown, so pretty clear evidence to him that this is not something that works with voters. There's one thing in here that I think maybe Trump will like, which is that apparently this funding for about 55 miles of a wall would actually allow something very similar to the steel slat construction, the design that he has talked about.
Wait, didn't he want 215 miles of wall?
Yes, yeah. Okay. So forget about the amount of it.
Okay.
He can just say it's a wall. I mean, if he gets 1 mile worth, he can call it a wall, right?
And what, and still satisfy his base?
Whoever it is he feels he has to satisfy. I think it comes down to like 3 conservative pundits, Sean Hannity, Ann Coulter, and maybe 1 or 2 others.
He's listening to them.
Yeah, they don't like it. Sean Hannity has already called this a garbage compromise. But Trump is just not going to get the funding he wants. He's going to lose on this. So
where does he dip into someplace else to get the funding?
Well, that's the question. If he does that, it will be instantly controversial and probably challenged in courts. He could go this route of the so-called emergency declaration. But you know what? He raised this idea like a month ago, and the fact that he did not do it during the shutdown itself, after he raised it, indicates that however much of a good idea it might have seemed when it first came out of his mouth, when you look at the reality of it, it's not a great idea. If you do an emergency declaration, you are taking money from funds that Congress has appropriated for other things. That money is supposed to be spent on projects in members' districts, and those members of Congress are going to say, hey, wait a minute, you know, you can't do that. And the fact is, that is not the way the government works. The president does not just get to go around to federal accounts and pluck money to spend on whatever he wants. So is there some wiggle room with some legal technicality there? I don't know. It's possible. But at some point, Trump is, I was going to say maybe at some point Trump wants to move past this and get on to other things, but maybe he doesn't. Maybe this is the issue that he decides is going to be his last stand. And
he seems to think it's very important to his re-election campaign.
He does think that, but the numbers suggest otherwise. The wall is popular with around 35 to 40% of voters. But a solid majority opposes the wall, and an even larger majority opposes shutting down the government for the wall. So I don't think he's going to get reelected with 40% of the vote.